How do? Welcome back to the channel. It's a relatively sunny Saturday afternoon here in Macclesfield in England, in the UK, and I'm still on my trusty Suzuki GSX-S 1000 GT. I thought I'd just give a quick update on the Suzuki, and this is now going into my third year of ownership, so I've owned it for 2 full years. Just have a quick check. Yeah, I've done almost 6,000 miles in those 2 years. I don't do many miles in the UK. I tend to do more European trips, so I'll do like 1,000 or 2,000 miles in Europe every year, and only a handful of miles here in the UK. Reason why, might have mentioned in other videos, is just the state of the roads in the UK is beyond pathetic. These potholes just make any journey out on a motorbike uncomfortable, even driving in the car. I know so many people that have ruined their cars with all the potholes here in the UK. Yeah, my partner's mother, she broke an axle on her Honda Civic. I've never seen anything like that before. You know, rear axle snapped from a pothole. How bad is that? It's unbelievable. And also, with all the over-regulation here in the UK and all the average speed cameras, yeah, it's just, you're so busy watching your speed when you're going through areas that you can't really just enjoy the sights and the sounds of the ride. Now, generally I don't ride too fast, or I don't believe I ride very fast compared to others, but there's nothing worse than having to constantly stare at your speedometer just to make sure that you're not, you know, slightly over that 40 or 30 mile per hour limit. It's gotten so bad. A lot of the routes through Wales that used to be national routes, I think they've all been changed down to either 50 mile per hour or 40 mile per hour limits, and yeah, people bang on about safety, etc., but oh my goodness, it just makes the journeys unpleasant. So I generally tend to steer clear of Wales. Alright, so yeah, back to the motorbike. What can I tell you in my going into my third year of ownership with this bike? Well, I saw this bike at the Manchester Bike Show, and that was in February of 2022. I placed an order and collected the bike only a few months after, in May of 2022. I got it with a full pannier set. Panniers weren't delivered at the time of taking receipt of the bike. They came a few months after that, and then I've added the tank bag myself, so I can't even remember what I bought, if I bought the Plus or whatever it was, or the touring version. What can I tell you about the bike? Well, you know, there are some positives, there are some negatives about the bike, mostly positive. I'd say the biggest thing for me on this Suzuki GSX 1000 GT is the front brake. It is woeful, or I don't know if it's just me. I've seen loads of other people report about it, but I can tell you, me personally, if I go out on a ride, I generally tend to activate that ABS at least 3 times every ride, and it's not through riding like a monkey. It's just that there doesn't seem to be that initial feel from the brake lever. So when I pull brakes, I remember when I was on tour in Germany and I was behind one of my mates, Nick, and I tried to pull up behind him. They all came to a complete stop for roadworks, and we weren't going fast or anything. I'm guessing probably doing less than 40 miles per hour. I barely stopped in time. I almost went into the back of him because I just couldn't get the feel from the brakes. I don't know, just couldn't slow down in time. Crazy. Also the tyres. So the first thing I did was change the tyres in the belief that it would give me you know, better opportunity to make contact with the road, to allow me to brake better. So I did that, and yeah, the tyres made a difference, but not a load. I was going to change the pads out, but then on speaking with the Suzuki mechanics, I use the Suzuki workshop down in Stoke. Oh, I think they're called Power Slide motorcycles. Really good bunch of lads there, and always able to fit you in for a service and whatnot that you need. So really good service from them. I spoke to the mechanic about the front brake, and he just said to me, look mate, don't change the pads, it's actually the master cylinder. So here where I'm pulling the lever, it's the master cylinder that needs replacing. But you know, I bought this bike on PCP. I don't intend to keep it long term. I like to switch out my bike, I'd say every 3 years or 4 years, however long the finance deal is for. It's only so that I can keep my costs low. I know what I'm paying. I'm paying £152 a month for this bike, and yes, it won't be mine at the end of the day, but it's like with everything, you know, after you've kept a vehicle for 5-10 years, eventually it gets to the point where you're spending that much on repairs, it's not really worth keeping it. So I've got that same problem with my car. I've got an old Volvo V70, and although the purchase cost was quite low initially, I've actually spent loads on repairs. So it's just a false economy. So in 1 year, so far on that Volvo, I've spent £5,000, and that's including the purchase price of £3,000. So the £2,000 is just in repairs, and I've just recently had a strut top mount replaced, and a brake caliper, and various other things. So I'm expecting another hefty bill. So let's just assume I've spent £6,000 on that Volvo this year. That equates to what, £500 a month. It's ludicrous, isn't it? So hence the reason why I go for these PCP deals on my motorbikes. You know, I always enjoy having a nice motorbike to ride. You know, it gives you a sense of freedom that you can just escape, you know, blow out a few cobwebs, and yeah, just have a bit of fun taking the sights and sounds. And this is how I relax on weekends. So yeah, back to my review on this bike and the positives and the negatives. So I started with the biggest negative for me, and that was the front brake. The other thing that I can think of is the handlebars. The handlebars have a strange angle to them. It's almost like they're bent up at the end, so your wrist does that. So it's a weird position. So right on the outside edges of my wrists, I tend to get quite sore there because of the way that the handlebars are. I suppose I could rotate the bars through the clamps, but generally I buy a bike and I fiddle with the electronics, you know, setting the various power modes, and then once I've done that, I generally don't tend to change settings on the bike until I trade it in again. So yeah, that's the other thing, is the handlebars. A third thing, not a major thing, but yeah, the suspension. The suspension on this bike, the front suspension is overly stiff, while the rear, I think, is quite inadequate. You only have the preload on the rear, and generally I take that up a couple of notches. I'm heavier than most ex-rugby players, so yeah, I weigh a little bit more than most Japanese test riders. So a couple of notches on the rear, but it's still, when I'm going through fast sweeping bends, I can feel the rear just wallowing, you know. But it's not a major thing, you know, so you just ride around that, don't you? Other thing which is intermittent for me is the quick shifter. This is probably the best quick shifter I've felt. It's I believe it's a radially mounted quick shifter, unlike the other ones where they go in line. But I just find fourth gear sometimes it sort of misses, where you change gear into fourth and you open the throttle like that, and there's nothing for like, I don't know, half a second or something, and then it realizes, oh, you've changed up a gear, and then it gives you full beans again. It's yeah, a bit of an odd one. That doesn't happen all the time. It only happens on a few occasions. Again, I spoke to the Suzuki mechanics, they weren't aware of any issues like that. But yeah, just said keep an eye on it. One thing I do think is, because I've got quite thick feet, I have adjusted the gear levers quite a lot high, almost to its full extent of height. So it could be that maybe I'm just operating on the edge of the quick shifter's limits. So I have thought about just bringing that gear lever down a centimetre or so. Right, so I think that's all the negatives. I know people talk about the screen, but I haven't found the screen a problem. I know I've got this MRA screen. I generally tend to put these MRA screens onto my bikes because it's got this adjustable spoiler on top. It's probably the best screen I've had and tested on various different bikes. So yeah, highly recommend the MRA screens. If you're not touring anything, you can just pop it down and get the wind blast. And if you're on a motorway and that you just want a bit of comfort, you just flip the spoiler up again. Really good design, and also from Germany, so really well made. Positives about this Suzuki: great for touring, especially people that are short in stature. So I'm 5'9", but I've got the world's shortest inseam, 29-inch inseam, so really short. I think my girlfriend's got longer legs than me. So all my length is in the top body, so I'm built like a meerkat, short little legs, long top body. But yeah, I can get my balls of my feet down on the ground with this. You know, I'm used to that. You know, that's how I've always ridden, even big bikes like the Africa Twin. I'm always used to not being able to get my feet flat. I tell you, something I've recently added to this bike is a cool covers seat. I can't believe the amount of airflow that I can feel under my backside. Really good airflow, so that's going to be great. So when we go on tour later this year with the group, we're heading over to Switzerland first, and then we're going to be heading down to Italy. And in the last few years, you know, we've been down to, well, we went down to Germany last. Years before then, we've been to Spain and Portugal. But you know, when you're going through Spain and Portugal and it's really hot summer, oh, there's nothing worse than having a hot, sweaty backside. So yeah, I can tell already just from this little test that the cool covers, seat cover is working fantastic. I can feel the airflow. Riding in jeans today. I bought myself some new hood jeans, so I've got that for the tour. I've also changed my jacket. Generally I ride in Klim gear. Now I've had a Klim Badlands suit for years and years. I had that even before I bought the Africa Twin, you know, the adventure style suit from Klim. So when I was going to buy a replacement, the first suit I looked at was the Klim Kodiak. Gave that a go, but it's got such a high neck that I decided no, it wasn't for me. It was just too uncomfortable in the neck. So what I've gone for this year, I've gone for a well, I say this year, it's not often I change my kit. I think I've had that Klim Badlands Pro suit. I must have had that from about 2017, so yeah, that's a good number of years. So it's almost 7 years good use. So this year I've got the Klim Marrakesh suit because you know, I'm looking forward to the tour in Europe. Loads of airflow through this suit. So at the moment the air temperature is 17 degrees Celsius here in the UK. Once it gets above 15 degrees Celsius, generally us Brits, well, I say the Brits, start wearing t-shirt and shorts. You know, that's warm weather for them. So 17 degrees Celsius, but I'm actually feeling quite chilly on the bike because it's letting through so much wind. Similarly, I also got these Klim gloves which allow a lot of wind to get through them. I can't recall the name of them, but it's a very similar material to the Klim Marrakesh jacket. It's like a fine net material, so yeah, air just flows through them. And then boots, well, don't know, I wanted to get myself a nice pair of boots, so I tried those Daytona boots. I think they're also made in Germany, those Daytona boots, but geez, did I struggle to get them on. I got the left boot on, but I just could not close the zip on the right boot. My ankles were just too big, so yeah, I had to return those. I was buying them from a sports bike shop online, and I've put in an order for some former adventure boots, but the low boots. I'm just thinking about, you know, this tour to Europe, it's going to be a bit warm, so I just want something which can allow me loads of airflow, especially when we're going down to Italy at the end of June. Oh, excuse me. So yeah, back to the bike. What can I tell you about this bike? Well, the Suzuki GSX-S 1000 GT. Well, firstly, it's a mouthful. Secondly, really great touring bike. It's got 3 modes, A, B and C. Generally I tend to ride in B, but even in B mode the throttle is still quite snatchy. It's very it's either on or off. It's yeah, I think it's electronic suspension, so that's probably why it's like that too. The panniers on this bike, massive, 36 litre panniers. You know, each pannier 36 litres. It's a load. When you have a look at other bikes like Kawasaki, which is the main rival of this bike, the Kawasaki Ninja 1000 SX, that's got slightly well, I say slightly smaller panniers, but they're just such an awkward shape. I don't know how people load anything into the panniers. Loads of gravel about in the roads. I think it's because it's been raining so much. That's why there's so much gravel just being washed down the roads. So yeah, that's the panniers. I wish I could fit a top box to this this bike. Well, I suppose I could, but I had a look at the Jiffy catalogue, and the Jiffy rack just seems to extend so far out the back of this bike, it just looked ridiculous. So I just thought, sod that. I'll just get myself a little 40 litre Jiffy roll bag. So I've got that now, ready for my trip, and I think that's going to take most of my clothes. Oh, we're out in the sunshine again, hoorah! It gets a bit cool riding under the trees like that. So yeah, also relating back to that Kawasaki Ninja 1000 SX, I did have a look at that bike. At the same time I had a look at the Suzuki GSX-S 1000 GT at the Manchester Bike Show, and I prefer the look of the Suzuki. I know a mate of mine had one Kawasaki Ninja 1000 SX, and he did offer to sell it to me, and I was like, nah, I think I'll pass on that. But it's only because I didn't like the look of the bike. What's happening here? Come on, lad, move along, move along. Everybody's out and about enjoying themselves in the fine weather. So is this camper van, probably looking for a nice place to park up, but yeah, there's no place here. We've got a long queue of cars behind me as well, so come on, move along. Have I had any issues with this bike? No major issues. I do have that rattle that comes from the cam chain tensioner, so I have that. Took it to the garage at the service, told them about it, they had a listen, and I was told, oh, they'll all do that, sir. I just left it at that. I'm sure if there is an issue, there may be a recall in the future, but not too fussed about that, because generally I've found Suzuki is reliable. And again, just repeating myself, because I've only got this for 3 years on PCP, not too fussed after 3 years, because it'll be under warranty, and I'll just trade it in. Yeah, not sure what to get next though. I believe this is more sporty than the Ninja 1000 SX. I don't think I'd go for an SX. I think the only bike that probably could tempt me away from this is the Suzuki GX, which is more of a, what do they call it, a sports tourer? They don't call it a crossover, they call it something odd. A sports tourer, so you're more sit up and beg style. I think it's in direct competition to BMW's S1000 XR. Now, I've test ridden the BMW S1000 XR. I enjoyed it, but it just had too many vibrations. However, I should also mention that this Suzuki GT, it does have vibrations. Once I get onto motorway speeds about 70 miles per hour, and I sit at that 70 for a while, I get that white knuckle syndrome, or sorry, white finger syndrome, from all the vibrations, where you tend to lose feeling in your fingers for a few hours. So I tend to get that on this bike. Loads of other people online, various different opinions. Some people get the vibrations, others don't, so I don't know what causes it. Maybe it's just like a slight imbalance in the engine, possibly, I don't know. So yeah, the only other bike I think I would be tempted to change this with is a Suzuki GX, so from the same manufacturer. I've had bikes in the past. I started with the Yamaha FZ6 naked many years ago. Oh, that was the biggest turd I've ever had the displeasure of owning. So I've had a Yamaha. I've not had an MT. I've had Honda Fireblade. Disappointed with the Fireblade. Everybody says it's the best all-round liter sports bike, but I just didn't get on with it. I had a Kawasaki Ninja ZX-10R. That was good. Enjoyed that. But unfortunately, had a big crash on it. So yeah, I've had a number of Suzukis over the years. I've had a GSX-R 750. I've also had a GSX-R 1000. The 750 was a K1, and the 1000 was from 2015, so quite recent. And then yeah, decided to dabble in adventure bikes after that, and I think it was 2018, got myself an Africa Twin, and big mistake. I like the look of the bike, but the quality of that Honda, it was disgraceful. You know, the quality of Hondas back in the 80s was really good. I think now Honda quality is I don't think it's as good as other bikes. I think if you look at the quality on Yamahas and Kawasaki's, they seem to be better than the Hondas in my opinion. The quality of this bike, well, this Suzuki has been built to a price, and that suits me, you know. I don't have loads of money to go and spunk on on the latest Ducati, so yeah, this will do. And yeah, I think it was about £12,500 this bike. So to me, the quality is acceptable. I know loads of people complain about the quality of this Suzuki, but I think it's fine. Yeah. I say the only thing that I have suffered here with the quality of this bike is stone chips, the paint finish for the wheels. That's the only issue I've had quality-wise. But otherwise, yeah, everything else has been fine and dandy with this bike. Really enjoy riding it. It's got a nice low seat for me. The fairings come off easily. I've had the fairings off. I've put radiator guards on myself. Yeah, replaced the tyres. I've got those Michelin Pilot 6s on, because when you're out touring, you know, you can't control the weather, so you'll be riding through all sorts, you know. So I'd rather have a tyre that's really good in the wet than an out and out sporty tyre. Yeah. Well, oh, the van has now opened its grey tank. It's spilling all its dirty water. Oh, the little monkeys. Anyway. Right, well, I think that's about it. Nothing further to add. Thanks very much for joining me today, and yeah, hopefully the GoPro is working. I've had quite a few issues with this GoPro, hence the reason why I haven't been posting for ages. I had a replacement GoPro sent out to me, and this is the first time I'm using it since I received the replacement late last year. Yeah, so it's my last ditch attempt at giving GoPro a chance, and if this doesn't work, well then yeah, GoPro no longer. I'll be getting rid of that. So yeah, thanks very much, and take care and enjoy the rest of your day.